Good afternoon and welcome to the Ministry Shift. And on a week when tens of thousands of children are returning to school, we're looking at the subject of schools chaplaincy in the diocese. I'm Simon Foster, I'm a member of the Lichfield mission team, and I'm joined by four panelists today, and they are Deborah Walton.
Hello, I'm Deborah Walton. I'm part-time vicar of Priest, Edsuston and Wixall and part-time school chaplain at Thomas Adams School, Wem and Sir John Talbot, Whitchurch.
We also have joining us for her first show, Debra Dyson.
Hi, I'm the Vicar of Wigington on the edge of Tamworth. We're a very small parish, but we have 4 schools in our parish covering all ages.
Great to have you, Deb. Rob, it's your first show too.
Hi, I'm Rob Goddard. I'm an ordinand in the Bucknell team ministry in Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm also a full-time chaplain at Kingsland CE Academy in Bucknell.
Thanks for joining us, Rob, and old hand Alex Wolvers.
Hi folks, I'm Alex Wolvers. I work for Lichfield Diocese and the mission team and also the schools team, and I help to support chaplaincy around the diocese.
Good to have you with us today, Alex. Thank you for joining us, all of you. So schools chaplaincy is a big subject. It's an emerging subject. If you went back 10 or 20 years ago and looked for a school chaplain, they'd almost certainly be in a private school funded by that institution. But today we're seeing emerging a kind of flourishing range of possibilities around that. And just by way of exploring why that might be, I want to turn to you, Deb Walton, and say, what do you think the case is for schools chaplaincy?
Yeah, so I'm a deanery appointed school chaplain, so I cover the deanery of Wem and Whitchurch, and I think the case for school chaplaincy in our area, as it would be in any other area, is a way of showing God's love and concern for a place and for all the people in it, and that's pupils, staff and parents. So it's a way in this deanery of expressing our desire to bring God's love to people that we might not have day-to-day contact with.
Do you want to say a tiny bit about how you do that as a secondary school chaplain?
Yes, so the role that I have is very much about presence, about going into the schools, about being present, about being known within the schools' communities, being there when there's a crisis. It also involves mentoring and supporting some pupils when they're going through difficulties. So I work closely with the pastoral care teams in each school.
And just an additional question, how much significance do you bring as a Christian chaplain?
So obviously I'm a Christian. I go into school wearing a collar. I'm sort of don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian. I'm there for all pupils, people and staff, people of the Christian faith and people of other faith or no faith. Sometimes people want to talk about faith, but quite often people really just want a listening ear. They want someone they can trust. They want someone who isn't a member of that sort of school environment. I don't write reports on anybody. I don't line manage anyone. So I'm quite neutral. But I think going in as a Christian, people know that I'm grounded in a faith which is very real for me.
Thank you, Deb. Rob, I'm going to turn to you. Deb's a secondary school chaplain in a community school. You're a primary school chaplain in the Church of England school. But even beyond that, every context is different. What's chaplaincy like for you, and what's your role specifically?
I'm a full-time chaplain. So I'm in school from before school starts till after it finishes, and the impact I think that the chaplaincy role has, it's that permanent presence, and I'm available at all times for any member of staff, any child, any family, and it's kind of well known, and that information is distributed throughout the community that I am available. And again, as Deborah was saying about being a presence that is it's impartial in a way to school life. It's separate, and you don't teach. I don't teach as such, and I don't write reports. But I do work closely with the safeguarding team and the pastoral team, the senior leadership team, where children are signposted. Even members of staff may be signposted, and yeah, a listening ear is really important and a real key part of the role in primary school. I think also that idea of they know I'm an ordinand, they know I should be ordained later this year, and I'll lead worship and I'll lead prayer with the children and encourage the children to lead worship and prayer as well. So it's quite a multifaceted role. It's not just for the children, it's not just for the staff. I have a presence in the community as well, where parents will...
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, Rob, because obviously there's a big difference at the school gates between a secondary school and a primary school. Do you just want to say a little bit about what that's like, how that plays out for you?
We're very fortunate that we have a cafe in school, which is the main entrance to school. So it's a place of congregation, place which is easy to meet people and speak to people, and to offer that listening ear, it's quite relaxed. So people feel relaxed in that environment. But also it goes beyond the school gates, I believe, for the fact that I'll lead prayer on Facebook Live. Parents engage in that. And so the relationship is wider than just school. It's on their terms. It's not on my terms or church's terms or school terms. It's on their terms. And I think that's important.
Thank you, Rob. I want to turn now to Deb Dyson, and in a way we've got you here under false pretenses because you're kind of probably not properly styled as school chaplaincy, but there's a way in which your work has led in that direction. Do you want to say a little bit about what you've found over the last 2 or 3 years in your relationship with a senior school, the secondary school?
Yes, the secondary school is just down the road from us, actually. And a couple of years ago, I was contacted by their chair of governors because one of their 14-year-old pupils had been knocked down by a car and killed. And she'd been with some friends of hers at the time. And so it is in our parish, the church, the school. So I went down just to be around. I went to a meeting with a few teachers when they were sort of planning things to do with the youngsters who were friends and who were obviously affected by it. And then I went in one of the lunch times in case there were friends of hers, particularly those who'd been with her at the time, who would just like to come and talk about it. And one young lady did, and then another young lady and a young man came. And those second two, I went in the following week, and it became a weekly thing. And then it grew. I mean, those first few weeks, couple of months, it was talking about what had happened, talking about their feelings, and of course there were lots of things that came into that. But then it began to grow incrementally. There was another friend, but it moved on from this terrible tragedy to a more general supportive role. And two of my colleagues, our curator at the time and one of my associate ministers, they began to come in, and the group grew roughly to about 6 or 7. And we made sure we went in every week, and we would be there at lunchtime, and it was usually a couple of hours. And it just became more to support them because they had their own problems. There were youngsters who were quite vulnerable for various reasons, and some of them had or were seeing psychiatrists and Malachi Trust members. So it was quite clear that we were quite clear from the beginning what we were there for was simply to support them and listen to them. We weren't, none of us are psychiatrists or psychologists or child psychology experts or anything like that. It was purely pastoral support. And we very quickly came to the point of view that what we could offer was that we would be there, because this seemed to be something that throughout all of them was a bit of a thing. So we would not let them down in the sense that we would always be there. We would just turn up and we would listen to them and talk with them. We laughed with them, we joked with them. It was all very just gently pastoral, but we let them talk about anything they wanted to talk about. And we
did that ministry of presence, did you come to think of that as in relationship to chaplaincy?
Well, Vic, our associate minister, did, and at his suggestion, we did speak to the head teacher, who was quite open to it, and we were sort of thinking maybe we could move forward in this way, but I was a bit concerned that we hadn't got the resources. We'd only got the resources to do so much, you know, and then you know, COVID hit us.
Yeah.
And we've had little contact. I mean, I should say that it had started to expand because the school had started to invite us to other things. I mean, they invited me to an academy day, which I went with some of the children down into Northampton, and they, you know, they invite us to the prize giving, it's not called prize giving, but you know what I mean, at the end of term and that sort of thing. So it was beginning to expand, and some of the youngsters have, a couple of them came here at Christmas with Christmas presents for us, which is really quite choking because we couldn't get in to see them.
And I think that's a fascinating account, isn't it? It's, if I can just kind of pull back to the 3 chaplaincies that we've seen, to just see the diversity, both of the chaplaincies, named or not named, that we've got, how they've come about. I mean, that very organic story that you just told, Deb Dyson, against kind of Deb Walton, you have, you know, you're employed as a deanery chaplain that's come out of a very clear vision in the deanery, but you all have a great deal in common. I'm just wondering what the kind of the essential shape of chaplaincy might be, and what some of the things that might need to be put in place are to make that work. I'm going to come to you, Alex, because you've got a diocesan role helping people think about schools chaplaincy and about how that might be built up.
Thanks, Simon. I think one of the key things about chaplaincy, as we've heard so far, is that it can take on a number of different shapes. And I think that's important. You know, there is a strength and there's a weakness in that, but that's important to recognise. But I also think it's really essential that when you are setting up this relationship between the church and the school, the chaplain, that you have clear parameters and that people are really clear about, you know, as Deborah's just said, what you can do and what you can't do. And that's so important. And it's so important for the school to understand the limits of the chaplain. It's also important for the chaplain to understand exactly what the school wants and needs as well. So I think communication between the 2 partners is absolutely essential when setting up chaplaincy, whatever form that looks like. But that communication is key.
Who holds the key relationships, do you think, in chaplaincy, in schools chaplaincy?
Is that to me, Simon? Are you
to
asking
anybody?
me?
But jump in, Alex.
Thanks. So I think really it is that partnership. Anybody can initiate it. So for myself, at the moment, I'm talking to multi-academy trusts who want to initiate it. I'm talking to churches who want to initiate it, and I'm talking to schools who want to initiate it. So I think the starting point can be anywhere, but that partnership, I think it needs to be seen as a partnership.
Thank you, Alex. Final question then to any of you. If there's a deanery out here, perhaps wrestling with its vision under the Shaping for Mission process, that is thinking about this, how would they know that schools chaplaincy was something that they should be thinking seriously about? What maybe some of the ingredients or some of the signs that that's worth looking into?
I think it might well be around the relationships, as Alex was talking about, and the question I think quite often for deaneries is how can you develop those relationships with the school safely? How can you equip people to join in? So sometimes the vicar might go in and do the odd school collective worship or similar, or be called in a crisis, but you may well have other people who could be involved. And chaplaincy gives us a good framework. Rob's already mentioned, the need to work with the safeguarding team and the pastoral care team, and we're dealing with quite a complex situation in any school, and the school is trying to meet need and keep people safe. And chaplaincy enables us to do that from the school's perspective, but also to train and to be linked into one another within the diocese to work out our own best practice. But I think it's all about relationships.
I just echo again, the relationship is key, and within that relationship, the building of community and facilitating that building of community as well. Not always just being involved yourself, but actually facilitating relationships in the community and wider than the school. Perhaps facilitating outreach for a school. From the school as a basis, but actually using the skills that church has and the gifts that we have as Christians of building that relationship and actually wanting to reach others and help and care and love.
So ultimately a vocational question. Deborah, Deb, Rob and Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. Wish every blessing on your ministries. We're back same time next week, hopefully to look at the ways that pioneering, evangelism and church planting can boost the lives of Christian and churches in this country today, and especially in this diocese. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please do like, share, and all the other things that get this show in front of the right eyes in these social media ages. I wish you a wonderful week and look forward to seeing you next week. Goodbye.